Nope.
Next question.
I'm not Penn and Teller. No, I'm just kidding. So I did as they say, a deep dive into the research in 2004. So when I started researching this, it was 2004 and 2005. And at that time, there were only a handful, believe it or not, a handful of books, not even a handful, maybe a couple of books about Emmett Till. One of those was Mamie Till Bradley's autobiography. So one of those was written by his mother. There's another book called The Lynching of Emmett Till, which had the author had gone through and culled all of the newspaper articles, right? Or a number of the newspaper articles that were written about Emmett Till during that time period. Chicago Defender, Times-Picayune. What I wanted to do was create a documentary piece. My work stems from, in the 90s, I used to listen to radio documentaries. John Biewen, I was a huge fan of John Biewen starting in the 90s before I met him in the late 2000s. Back then on NPR, the stories sometimes they would span a half an hour, 45 minutes. From what I understand from my NPR friends at work now, they're like, people don't have the attention span anymore. That's why those stories, those really great stories, are shortened. Well, there's a point to that story. The point is that I would listen to them and I would think, wow, this is such great theater. One day I'm going to write so that a person who perhaps has lost their sight can still hear me and still have a full experience, the same full experience that I get as I'm listening to this radio documentary. I hope that a person that perhaps cannot see me perform this on stage can still hear me and enjoy it as much as someone who has sight. And so, fast forward to doing the research for this, I wanted to take that Look magazine article where they confess, halfway confess, they don't tell the whole story obviously, where they confess, and couple it with all of the other research going to books and newspapers, first-hand accounts, speaking to cousins, visiting Mississippi and talking to individuals there, and put all of those things in a documentary-style play so that you, the audience, has to make the decision as to what exactly happened. Because what those men say, they say, well, we took him from the shed to the shore of the Tallahatchie, and he was still talking back, and that's when we killed him. Well, that's their version of the timeline, whereas there are witnesses, eyewitness accounts, that say they saw the body being loaded into the truck from the shed. And the brutality of what happened to Emmett. Clearly, he was probably not alive when he left that shed that night. So what I attempt to do is tell the story from a number of different angles and cast you, the audience, as jurors. Sometimes you're cousins. Sometimes you are listening on, like William Bradford Huey. But you are a part of the journey as opposed to just letting the story wash over you. You are a part of the story. You're not just along for the ride. You are sitting central to it. And that was my desire. You know, someone once said there are three truths: your truth, my truth, and the truth. And somewhere in the center is the truth. So if I tell enough versions of the truth, somewhere in the center is the